Hello, this is for Ptango101. I'm not sure if that's exactly how you pronounce your username, but if not, please correct me. I hope that you're doing very well. This is to respond to the video that you made for me. Thank you very much for making that video. Um, Now, if there's something that I am not remembering quite right or something, if you please let me know. I have memory issues because of health difficulties, but that's why I like doing the written comments. But one way or the other, I'm fine. Which, however you want to do this, is fine. If you don't want to continue the discussion at any point, it's fine with me too. But I will just try to respond to what I remember of the video that you made for me. Thank you very much for making that, by the way. But you mentioned non sequiturs. I was not sure exactly what non sequiturs you were referring to. As far as I knew, everything that we were discussing was something that was agreed upon for us to be discussing in such a way. And if there were any terms that were used that you didn't agree with the way they were used, please let me know. Because I would rather be communicating with you with terms that both of us understand what they mean and agree on the terms. So if you let me know whatever non sequiturs you were talking about, I'd appreciate that. You talked about groups not abusing their young, and does that include everyone in the group? Are there any exceptions when you say that the group doesn't abuse their young? And you referenced to me saying one, and when I said one in this context, I meant anyone, that when one abuses their young, they're not as likely to survive. I'm not talking about a specific one, I'm just saying anyone in the group. And actually, I wanted to say another comment about that really quick, if I can find it. What I was asking was, how did abusing one's young, someone abusing their young, make them not able to survive? How did the abuse of young make someone not able to survive in the group if they abuse their young? And I know you're talking about, passing on genes. Why is that important? Why does it matter if you pass on genes or not? When I die, I'm going to be dead, and if I pass on my genes, fine. If I don't, fine. Who cares? Why does that even matter if you pass on your genes? Why should it matter to me or to anyone else if they pass on their genes? I don't see why that's important. Why that would be important. Anyways, I'll go on. And you said you were commenting about faith, and since you had brought up faith in the discussion, I wanted to understand what you meant by the term. And you said in the video that you meant belief without evidence, which I was wondering if you were going to use the Sunday school type definition, or if you were going to go with what the word actually meant. So, because what the word actually means, the Hebrew for the word that's used for faith is emunah, and it means firmly fixing yourself to something. So it's like a firm trust in something based, if grounded in action. So it's not just saying a mental assent, but it's firmly, actively affixing yourself in trust to something. And then the Greek term is pistis, and from what I found, it's the conviction of the truth of anything. So if you are convicted of the truth that the air you breathe is going to be breathable and going to actually help you out, then you have faith that the air that you're breathing is not going to just kill you the next moment you take a breath. So it's that the conviction of the truth of anything, a belief in something, and it being grounded in evidence or not is irrelevant. Some people may have faith in something that is grounded in evidence, and some people may not. So it just kind of depends. But that's why I was asking for your definition of faith with the way you used it. And you said talking about the norm for people to care for their young. Well, from what I see, the norm is for people to care for their young to varying degrees. That can go from they're actively caring for their young in such a way that's beneficial for their young, and beneficial for children or their young, however. And then you have people that their care for their young is non-existent. I mean, if you take a young that's growing inside a mother, and some mothers decide to have their young killed, Now, I wouldn't see that as particularly beneficial for that child if the child is killed, murdered, however you want to put it, at the hands of some doctor, supposed doctor. And then you can have, after the child's born, they leave them in a dumpster or, whatever. So there's varying degrees of care. Some parents will care for their children and feed them and take them to school, and then also sexually abuse them and make their life a living hell and give them trauma that will play out through the rest of their lives. So there's varying degrees. So that's the norm. The norm is for people to, they may care for their child, they may not care for their child, they may care for their child to whatever degree. Spanking is a norm. That happens all the time. I don't know if that's necessarily good for the child psychologically and as they're growing, for their growth. So that's what I had to say about the norm in childcare. And then you said something, I can't remember what you said that I said, but I didn't say what you said I did. I'd have to play back your video. I don't have it. Since it was a video and it's not something written out as a comment, I can't just look at it and see what it is you said. I'd have to go back and watch the whole thing. Whatever it is that you said that I said, it was not what I said, but I did ask some questions of which you didn't answer. I was asking that if the creator, since the creator exists and with the qualities that I was specifying, since you agreed to that for this scenario, then I asked if the creator would be responsible for the deaths of everyone. And I don't think you ever answered that. So if the creator is responsible, excuse me, burp, for taking life, then would the creator be responsible for taking all lives that end, for all deaths? Would the creator be responsible for all deaths? Trying to go back to what you were saying and make sure I'm responding to it. And you said something about one being responsible for the deaths of the firstborn. Now, you were talking about the firstborn being children. I don't know if you had an issue with me clarifying that the firstborn weren't necessarily children. But what I was getting at was the kind of a situation where, say, a leader of a country is deciding to go to war with another country, and the other country that the leader is going to war with is saying, stop doing this, stop attacking us, or we will attack back and we will bomb your cities. If you don't stop sending over missiles into our country, we will attack back and bomb your cities. Now, do the people that have, the leaders of the people that are invading the other country, are those people responsible at all for their leaders? Do they have any responsibility for making their leaders stop attacking this other country? Or are they completely guiltless, and if any deaths occur, if the country that's being attacked retaliates in any way, and or I guess I should say retaliates in such a way that they bomb cities and civilians get killed, are any of those civilians in any way responsible for what happens? Or are they completely guiltless? It's only the leaders, and the civilians have no responsibility whatsoever. That kind of plays into my situation that I was getting at. And as far as hardening the heart, I will include a link to a video that I found helpful. I think that the hardening the heart was a mistranslation, and that's part of my point, is that to just trust the translations, the English translations. I don't always, many times I don't find them trustworthy, and I think that if you were going to use that, use those verses, that you should actually look at the verses and see what, as at least as best as you can, see what the Hebrew or the Greek actually means, instead of just trusting in the English translations, because they're not always reliable. But that's really a side issue. That's not, to me, that's not central to the point at all. And I'm just going to look back over responses to see if there's anything else I wanted to comment on. So if you give me a minute, I'll try to make sure this isn't taking too long or anything. You said, I can't remember what this was about, but you said, now look to how society treats these people. There is a reason you and I are framing it in a negative light. And I asked, which society? Would you like examples in which abusers and rapists are accepted, condoned, even seen positively? Where there are societies where people that rape and abuse are seen in a positive light. They're not looked down on. So it depends on which society you want to talk about with this. We're framing it in a negative light because we're in this society and not one of those, correct? It's all relative and subject after all, correct? I mean, if it's all relative and subject, then I guess it just depends on which society you're in. But if there's actually a moral grounding to it, then it may be wrong regardless of which society you're in. If the society says that it's good and right, or the group says that it's good and right, it may be morally wrong, whatever the group says. But then there would have to be an authority that would say that it's right or wrong. Otherwise, you're left with, well, I say it's right, well, I say it's wrong. You know, one person says it's right, another person says it's wrong, and who's right? Just whoever can be more dominant? Does it come down to a matter of force? Right or wrong is determined by whichever one is stronger and can enforce their view. So yeah, that's kind of a problem I have with that. Let's see. I believe I already said what I'm asking is how did abusing one's young make one not survive? And I'm not talking about just one particular individual. I'm saying a person or people, you know, however you want to put it. You said one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. So I said, so you think it really is subjective and relative. It may be right for you, but not right for me or my group, since of course the group makes the rules and I go along with whatever the group says. So the group, if the group determines morality, then whatever the group says, you know, and if you disagree, then there may be penalties for you. So basically you just legitimized rape and child abuse and all the other myriad evils and socially disadvantageous behaviors to the group. And when I said, you said we survive by caring for a young, and I said, no, we die whether we care for a young or not. I went over that a little bit before, that whether you care for your young or not, whether you have a young or not to pass on your genes is irrelevant, you're going to die. Everyone in the group is going to die. You're going to die. So regardless of what happens to offspring or anyone else in the future, you are going to die. You and everyone else in the group is going to die. You said we need to maintain healthy group dynamics or it all falls apart. So what? Who cares if it falls apart? Show me a healthy group, one that hasn't fallen apart and had enough time to do so. I don't know of any groups that fit that, that are healthy, that have not fallen apart, that had enough time to fall apart, but they didn't. Every group I know of has fallen apart. Let's see. Went over that. Went over that. You said, obviously there are many people who don't recognize child abuse as wrong, at least a vast number, not enough to keep from doing it. No, I think that's what I said. I would challenge that. Why then does the abuser seek to hide his actions? And this is what I responded. So you're not telling me who the nebulous we is. What part do you challenge? That there aren't many people who don't recognize it as wrong enough to keep from doing it? Or are you saying that it's enough for someone to admit they're wrong and they keep on doing it? The abuser hides his actions to avoid being caught. It says nothing about whether they think it was wrong or not. So you have abusers that will hide their actions not because they know it was wrong, but because they don't want to get caught. It's not necessarily because they think it's wrong. Let's see. You said, did their actions directly evoke an action that resulted in the deaths of children? And I said, of course, they didn't stop their leader and they didn't free the slaves after repeated requests and warnings of what would happen if they didn't. And you misspoke. It says firstborn, not children. I already went over this. Sorry for going over it again. That people that have the opportunity, people that are put in a situation of either free the slaves or we will attack you and kill these certain members of your group, they're in a situation where they can take responsibility. They can either free the slaves or let their children die. It's their choice. Now, if they choose not to free slaves, they're putting keeping slaves over and above the value of the lives of their children, however old their children may be, whether they're young children or adult children, it doesn't really matter. But in this situation, they're valuing having slavery over the lives of these children. Let's see. And you said he was prevented from doing the very thing that Egypt was being punished for. My question still stands. How was he prevented? Who was preventing him? And are you claiming that he did not make a choice? If you are claiming that, please demonstrate how. I'd really like to know. And if you're going to use these scriptures, please illustrate from these verses that you're using exactly how he's prevented from making a choice. So I think that's everything that I wanted to respond with. I know this is a little bit long, 16, almost 17 minutes, but hopefully this finds you well, and hopefully, if you want to continue this discussion, you can respond, and if not, it's been good having this discussion with you. Like I said, I hope you're doing well, and farewell for now.